It's now my pleasure to invite Dr. Stephen Coertze up. We are actually so privileged to have the Executive Director of the Wicklow Global Alliance in our midst. So thank you, Stephen, for being here with us today.
I hope you don't mind if I remove my mask. I did have a COVID test today and I'm tested negative for COVID. Actually, every morning when I do my clean-up routine, I always try to smell the shampoo in my hand. If I can smell it, then apparently I don't have COVID. So, if you do get infected by me, I do apologize. I'm fulfilling the role as representing Wicklow Global Alliance. I had the opportunity to say a few words to Karen and Sebastian, and the other evening we had the opportunity to meet with them, and Alan and Andrea. Thanks so much. That was such a great time that we could have together, and also just reflect some on your leadership, Karen, over the last 12 years. But now I'm putting on I'm taking off my Wicklow South Africa cap. I just want to say thank you for that most beautiful young photo of me on the screen. Harry, do you remember the days when we were young? A long time ago. That's right. Many exciting developments are taking place even in the midst of this global pandemic. I've just jotted down a few of what has transpired over the last couple of months, and even just in this last week. 13 December 2020, YWAM, Youth with a Mission, launched their OBT 1000 campaign or program. This is to see 1000 oral Bible translation programs started by the year 2025. This is what they've launched into. In February, we had the opportunity to, together with them, dedicate and ship a fully equipped recording studio to Papua New Guinea. Adrian, they don't have the same problems you've got here today to carry equipment across from one room to another. They just ship this whole container to wherever it is needed in the world, and that is going to be used for the oral Bible translation recordings that we are grateful for. A new reality for the Bible translation movement, to rub shoulders with YWAM in the shifting world of Bible translation. 1st of April, day before Easter, I tasked our Asia Pacific Area Director to launch a task force to look into consultancy requirements for oral Bible translation. So this is something that's going to move now, as we're going to see YWAM and others continue with oral Bible translation, is to see how this is going to speed up having access to God's Word in the remaining language communities. 8 April, this was on Thursday, the Wallach New Testament in Papua was dedicated. What's so special about this translation? It is one of our alliance organizations that for the first time saw a completion of the New Testament that was done fully by local community. Doc Marcus Ilunga, 23 years ago, on his mother's deathbed, she said to him, she's bemoaning the fact that God's Word is not available in their language. And he promised her, he said, Mom, I will ensure that people have scripture in our language. And 2 days ago, with his leadership and his leadership team, they saw the dedication of the New Testament, the Wallach language. Yesterday, I tasked our Europe Area Director to look into new potential developments in Eastern Europe and Central Asia, wherever you want to draw that line. But new exciting developments opening up for us in the Bible translation movement in an area of the world that has been basically close to Bible translation up to now. Three critical events lead to where Wycliffe South Africa is in its current history today. And these are important, especially as you continue looking forward and building into the future. 2004, the Wycliffe South Africa board took a bold step in approaching the powers to be in those days to inform them, not to ask permission, that Wycliffe South Africa is shifting our dotted line reporting relationship from Europe to Africa. At that stage, there was not a Wycliffe Africa area, or a Global Alliance Africa area, and Wycliffe South Africa played a pivotal role in helping to establish the Wycliffe Africa area. 2008, conversations with Sebastian, most irritating conversations, because this was after 2 weeks of international conference, global gathering. We were tired. It was 2 o'clock in the morning flight, and Sebastian was just blabbering about the potential of Wycliffe South Africa getting involved in translation projects in Southern Africa. We heard him out, and when we got on the plane, we thought, okay, thank goodness now we all go to sleep. And right across the aisle sat Sebastian, and the conversation continued till we landed at Johannesburg Airport, and then we went our own ways, and then the phone rang. Sebastian was still busy sharing this vision that he had. 2004, 2008, very critical moment in the history of Wycliffe South Africa. I was on my way out, and the discussions were on the board. Who will be able to take Wycliffe South Africa into this dream for Wycliffe South Africa? We looked at many different names, different potentials, different configurations of leadership potentials, etc. But Bonnie, the name of Deborah came up. And we still remember when Lizelle and I was at Sebastian and Karen, and bounced this idea off them for Karen to take up the leadership of Wycliffe South Africa. Karen, we could not have made a better choice. Thank you so much that you were willing to take this up. So from a Global Alliance perspective, Karen was quickly acknowledged as a leader within the global community. Global leadership meetings, global gatherings, Africa area meetings, consultations. I vividly remember your participation, as well as Karen's first grand entry at the Global Leaders Meeting, the first one she attended, as the speaker was up front blabbering and everybody was getting tired. All of a sudden, the door opened backstage and here an angel stormed into the room on stage. Karen just managed to get the wrong door, but she made the entrance and she was noted. And Karen is still noted today as one of our leaders within the global movement of Bible translation. I think this was acknowledged, Karen. If I can use one example, when my dear colleague Dave Croft, who was the director for a global gathering that was going to happen in Boksburg, South Africa, in 2020, when he was diagnosed with cancer and since has passed away on the 1st of February last year, we had to find a replacement very quick to take up the responsibilities, because global gathering was then just a short year away, and it needed the necessary leadership, not only for the planning but also for the execution of global gathering. And the board was clear, the Wycliffe Global Alliance, our international board, was very clear in their mind, one person will be able to pull this off, and that was Karen. And thank you so much again for making yourself available and giving leadership to that, and for taking it close to when we had to pull the plug on global gathering, that it could not happen due to the COVID pandemic. But you've been recognized and acknowledged as a role player, not only in South Africa and Southern Africa, but on the global scene in the Bible translation movement. Karen, you know now, I believe, out of experience, that there's not a blueprint in leading this kind of organization. It's complex. Alan, it's complex. And I think you've already started to notice that. There's not a blueprint on how to lead this kind of organization, this kind of ministry. But there are 4 things that we can use to help us into decision making. The one is our dependency on God, and one of you expressed that so well this morning, is a daily dependency on God, that God will give us the wisdom and the knowledge we need on making decisions. The second one is our core beliefs, our whole belief system, our values. That's what we stand for. And that's the second thing that carries us in making decisions. The third one is our experience. Packing to go to Mozambique, raising children on Eagle Island. And if you look at Adrian and 2 other sons, you guys have done a magnificent job. Just those experiences that you could bring into your leadership. And then the fourth one is the humble ability to find counsel from others. Your leadership team, others that are not part of your leadership team, that you've met across met over the number of years, and that you were humbly willing to listen to. You exemplify that kind of leadership, and I think that's part of what has brought South Africa to the point today that you were able to listen to those critical factors in your decision making, even when you had to make some very tough and difficult decisions. I want to close by referencing one of my champion leaders, and that is King David. On his deathbed, not that this is a closure of your leadership, Karen, somebody said this is only the beginning, and I believe that. But King David concludes, and it says the last words of King David in 2 Samuel chapter 23, verse 1 to 4, and I'm just going to paraphrase 2 things. David said, God said to me that if you want to rule the people well, now you did not rule, let's paraphrase that and say, if you want to lead well, there are 2 things you've got to do. You've got to lead with righteousness and in the fear of the Lord. And I think that exemplifies your leadership. Then there's also a word for Wicklow, South Africa in David's closing remarks. And David is very excited about this. He says, who is me that God has promised the kingdom to my son and his offspring, a kingdom that will last forever. And that is part of the leadership that you have left for Wicklow, South Africa, is that this ministry will continue. I'm thrilled today that we've got 4 generations of Wicklow, South Africa leadership here. Harry, my privilege to have stood on your shoulders. Karen, somehow you could balance on some of ours. And Alan, what a rich history and legacy for you to continue taking Wicklow, South Africa forward. And here's the thing of this message of King David. He says, this kind of leadership that I gave is like the sun rising in a cloudless sky in the morning. The beauty of that. And like after the rain, when the grass breaks out of the dry ground and it starts blooming and it is ready for harvest. What we see on this video, Karen, is your legacy of harvest. You've harvested of what was laid in the past, and you've laid the foundation for harvest still to come, that Alan, with South Africa and others beyond that, will have the opportunity to grow, harvest, and continue to build foundations for the future. But hey, you're an outstanding leader, Baron. And Sebastian, thank you so much. It's not often that men are willing to acknowledge that potential in their wives, to take the leadership. You've given God that space. And between the two of you, you've brought Nuclear South Africa in a place that many can only dream to see the growth that has taken place. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephen.